Hi there, this is my review of the HPI Bullet ST or Stadium Truck Flux, which is effectively the same as the Bullet Monster Truck Flux, with the difference that it has a different set of tires and a different body. Other than that, it's the same. I want to go over some of the things that I've learned with this truck over the last few months that I really think anybody who is either planning on getting one or has one of these should contemplate of doing, because some of this stuff isn't perfectly engineered. Let me start with the body. The body, actually, I found out, I think is the same body as is on HPI's MT40, I think it's called. It's a nitro stadium truck that they made, which doesn't have the monster truck setup like here, but the body really seems to be the same. The body on this Bullet ST is really flawed in some respects. That you can see right here, one of the first things that started happening is that the wheel well started tearing out. And the reason, of course, is that I really had to cut these wider open in order to fit the tires, because once you're running or you land, these have the tendency of getting caught up in the body and it'll tear it up or the tires. So I had to do that. Then, and perhaps you can see it from out here, you'll see that unless you plan on landing on all fours all the time, you will land on the back, and your ESC is located directly on the receiver box, and you can really see the indents from the fan. And guess what? You will break your fan. Another thing also is that this is some very flimsy Lexan, I feel, and you can see that from the many jumps, the first thing that'll happen is you'll start crunching up your back end on it. And in order to illustrate it a little more, what happened is that the body, because of all the falls on the back, I had to put some plastic in here in order to reinforce the body, because otherwise the shock towers were just breaking through. And you can actually see right here where the ESC fan hit. So effectively, I didn't like the body much anyways, so I chucked it and I got a Proline VW Baja Buggy. And this thing really looks, I think, very sweet on this truck. This is the Proline Baja Bug body that comes with the fin, and you can actually put some engine detail on it. I had to cut the fenders out a little bit in order to fit the tires. I had to get new body posts, but I made it fit. It really looks sweet when this thing runs. Now, it also opens up way more space. It's much sturdier, so that when it does land on its back, you are not going to hit the electronics on the inside as you do with the stock body that comes with it. I like this setup much better. Tends to work better. Now, as to another thing that I did was that because the ESC was sitting right here and was just not in a very good place when you were landing on your back, I ended up moving the ESC here. I had to replace the fan on it already, and I replaced that flimsy little flick switch that comes with the stock ESC with something from Radio Shack that I actually built into the battery box. Works fine. Now, I've also placed a fan on the motor in order to cool it down a bit, because it tends to overheat. I've run this thing on 3S lipos. It's phenomenal when you run it on 3S lipos. It's a completely different truck. It goes really, really fast. I would say anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour. You have to make sure though that when you get 3S lipos that you get the right dimensions in order to make them fit into this battery box, because otherwise it won't fit, not lengthwise, but the width is just too much on most 3S hardpack lipos. I ended up getting Turnigy 4000 milliamp 3S lipos. The soft packs, they fit nicely into here, and I basically only put 3 clips on it because all those clips in there is too many anyways, and during one of my bashing periods I actually sheared one off. Now, on another note, the programmable ESC works very nicely once you realize that HPI, because, and you can maybe see it here, they printed a big fat logo on the ESC and covered up the LEDs by that, so you can't see the LEDs. You can basically only do it by counting the beeps that you hear, and you can set the ESC. When you run 3S lipos, make very sure that you turn down your brake force, because if you don't, what'll happen to me is I actually crunched up the gears in the front diff and had to replace the front diff. Because if you're going that fast under that much power and you hit it, you can definitely hear the front differential crunch when you hit the brakes. So make sure you turn that down a little bit, get rid of the drag brake, set that on to 0, and that way you have much better control over it, especially when you jump. Because one of the things about this thing is it's not easy to jump because of all the very narrow wheelbase. You'll see that it's tricky and it requires quite some experience in order to make sure that you land straight. Now, one of the things that you definitely have to change, whether you're running 3S lipos or not, is the stock servo. The stock servo that comes with it is way too weak to turn these big tires. Even when they're sitting still, you'll see that it's not going to work well, and then if you go under speed, your turn radius is going to be so horrendously big because the servo just can't handle having to haul those tires into a turn. Get yourself one. I have the Hi-Tech MS 645 MG in here, which has metal gears in it. It's very powerful, works great. I had one with plastic gears in it. First thing that it did is ate up the plastic gears and that was broke. So this is actually my second replacement servo that I put in here. The stock one I just put into a smaller car that I have, and it works fine there. So that's basically my review. I've also put a fan on the motor because with 3S lipos the motor definitely gets very hot. One of the things that I've done, and you can choose to do this, is that I've turned the failsafe off, because the failsafe on 3S lipos really turns on, you know, after a few minutes, and I didn't feel it was justifiable. I turned it off, I run it without the failsafe, and it seems to be doing fine. I haven't burned up the ESC. I've read on forum boards that other fellows out there seem to have similar problems with the Hobby Wing ESCs, because this is actually a Hobby Wing 60 amp ESC in here with one of the Hobby Wing, I think it's a 4300 kV motor on it. Many people out there, or some people, I don't want to say many, but some people have opted to turn the failsafe off and just placed an extra fan on it. Seems to work for me. If it works for you, fine. But even though it says it's 3S capable, there are some changes that you're going to have to make. Generally speaking, run 3S lipos when you want to do long, straight, very fast runs. For bashing, the motor and the ESC just end up overheating way too much. Not so advisable. I use 2S lipos in here. It's plenty fast with that. For bashing, you really don't need a whole lot more, but it is awesome to see this thing fly at 40 to 50 miles an hour down either a dirt track or the road. It is pretty stunning. But again, beware of your brake setup on the ESC. You might want to turn that down when you run 3S lipos on it. So that's the review of the Bullet Flux ST. Awesome little truck. I have a lot of fun with it. The only thing that I've broken so far was an front upright I had to replace. Oh, and which reminds me that you will also see that the screws, and I don't know if you can see it, but the screw that you see right here at the top, this one right here, those have the tendency to back out and you lose them. Okay, so you might want to take those out, put some thread lock in, put them back in there again, and you won't have that problem. Other than that, really good truck. I absolutely love it. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I continue to have a lot of fun with my VW Bug body. This thing is definitely stellar. The only thing that I've noticed, of course, is that on the back, and you can see it right here where the motor comes out, the bumper and back motor portion isn't exactly the best combination. Then of course, since you land on the back, you'll eventually tear the fin off. I had to reinforce this with some screws here. Don't know what I'll do about that. Probably just cut it off at some point, or just leave it and have fun with it as is. So far it's working fine. Like I said, I like it with this body much better than the Stadium truck body. Looks awesome. Really runs fine. It's a lot of fun. So I hope this guys has helped you, and leave any comments. Thanks.